Hey, welcome to another video and thanks for tuning into this one. And in this video, I want to touch on some aspect of getting ready for your dream job. I mean, you're trying to apply for an airline, you're trying to become a pilot. I want you to understand some of the things that you need to probably prepare for as you seek the opportunity, whether it's a cadet program, it's a scholarship program, it's a job interview, whatever that may look like. I think this is so important because a lot of the experiences that I've acquired tend to, especially during interviews, tend to cater towards the things I'll be talking on in this video. So if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thanks for tuning in again. And this is not my usual space, but I felt like this is time for me. I mean, if I really do have the idea and I felt like it's time to bring it out there, I try to make it happen, because at the end of the day, I don't know if this will benefit or how this might change somebody's life, this information, and I hope that it helps you. That is the key thing. I have my iPad and my computer. I may have to go back and forth while I share this information. So one of the first things I want to start with is most of the information that I bring to you are usually industry information, industry data. So it's not just usually what I'll let you know if it's my experience, but most of the time it's based on my own research, based on my own studies of what is trending and what is happening. And I'm talking about industry data because when I reference my documents or when I reference information, I try to use things like the recognized aviation authorities or bodies that are out there, depending on the country and region. And this is important because, you know, I'm just a random guy on YouTube. I mean, if you really think about it that way, and you don't have to take my words for it. But when I give you the information and tell you the source of the information, and then I put in the real world application of that information, then it makes sense. And I say real world application because you want to get information from somebody that's actually doing the job. And how does that information translate to the job? And that's where the correlation really comes into play. So this information is taken from the guidance material and best practices for pilot aptitude testing. This is from the IATA, okay? Now, there are some things that you need to consider when you are preparing for, say, an interview, okay? Of course, we know that interview is really testing your abilities in so many aspects, you know, whether it's an aptitude test, whether it's the interview itself, whether it's the written exams that you have to take. All those aspects, right? They're all testing for some things, and they always let you know what to prepare for. However, there are some things that they're not always mentioned, but I want you to know that they're also testing for those things. Now, I'm going to read some list, and I'm going to put a screenshot of this information on the screen so that you can maybe see it yourself. But looking at number 2, it says basic mental abilities. You know, components are memory capacity, speed, and accuracy of information processing, perception, classification, transformation. Special abilities, static, technical comprehension, reasoning, information processing with basic figures, logical abilities, long-term concentration. All of these are usually tested during your written exams or maybe the computer-based exams that you guys take. And they usually time those exams. I mean, for those of you that are maybe going through the Speedbird program or someone that are preparing for this program in the future, you guys need to understand that those things are testing your abilities. It's not just about the ability to solve the problem, because yes, maybe we solve the problem, but can you do it within a reasonable amount of time? Those factors are things that if you are not well suited for the job, you may struggle with those tests. And that's why they're using those assessments to literally take down applicants that may not be suitable for the job, especially when it's a program that is fully funded. Another area that I want you to focus on, okay, is the composite mental abilities. It says components are allocation of attention, multitasking, psychomotor abilities, and spatial abilities. They usually are called the computer testing as well. It could be on the computer, or it could be like a simulator testing, where you put in like a simulated, a flight simulator, or a computer and a joystick, or maybe just something that tests those skills and your ability to multitask, respond to instructions, comply with instructions, make necessary input while still doing maybe a checklist or following a procedure are things that are tested during this phase. Now, the 2 areas that I've mentioned to you right now, like I said, the basic mental abilities, usually they'll test for math, your ability to logical reasoning, verbal reasoning, all those aspects, right? And then we talked about the PFD, MFD, or when I say PFD, I mean family flight display, using basic flight instruments to operate, or there might be a simulation. It might be a simulation of just multitasking activities, right? These two areas are areas that you can start to prepare for, especially if you are planning to apply to a program in the next 6 months, maybe a year. It is very important that you start to look into the areas that would help you get that advantage. And the advantage is that if you start practicing, you're able to improve on yourself. You're able to improve the skill. However, if you fail to not take the necessary initiative right now, and you want to then practice within 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to the assessment, you would struggle. That is the fact about it. When it comes to building your skills and your abilities, it takes time, and it takes building a habit, a consistent habit pattern. Now, how do I recommend going about this? One of the things that I use in even my, when I'm bored, I put it that way, because I don't usually need this information. But when I need to test myself, right? Sometimes I go on this, for example, pilotassessment.com, PASS. Most of you may already know this. You can see the link below as well. I sometimes will go there just so that I get access. I try to get maybe 2-week period or 4-week period just to test myself on how I do some of these exercises. Why do I do that? It's just a way to see how I feel. I'm managing my stress. I'm able to multitask. I'm able to comprehend information, make sense of it. All of these are things that, yes, I may not need that particular information in preparation for an assessment, but in your day-to-day life, doing the job, you need the ability to be able to do those things at a pace that is acceptable. Now, aviation is nothing that, they always say that if you're rushing, then you're probably going to make mistakes. So the point here is not that you want to rush to complete activities or tasks, but the point here is you want to be able to keep your attention or maintain that attention to detail while also executing tasks at the appropriate pace. So these two areas are important. Now, the last area that I want us to talk about, okay, very important. You have number 4 and number 6. Number 4 is operational abilities, okay, and number 6 being personality traits. Okay, let's talk about operational abilities just for a moment. Components are problem solving, decision making, workload management, situational awareness, and management of information. All of these are usually stated exactly to you through maybe during the interview, where they will tell you how do you manage, how do you solve a problem? Tell me about how you solve a problem, or I faced a challenge. How would you solve this particular challenge through scenarios? Now, how do you expose yourself to different operational abilities? Now, when I say operational abilities, what that means really is on the job, okay? How are you able to deal with problems that come up? Now, when flying, things generally come up. Maybe you have a passenger that is facing a medical situation. You have an engine problem, you have a malfunction, or it could be just a conflict situation between the teammates, or between the pilot or the flight attendant or the teams anyway. And the point here is your ability to manage that problem and resolve it so that everybody can continue to operate in a cohesive manner is so important. Now, they will generally test you if you are, let's say, an aspiring pilot. They will generally ask you questions on how you manage conflict, how you deal with problems, how you executed solving a problem, what are your thought processes, and what are the logical steps you took to arrive at a resolution to the problem. Your ability to talk about this will be very important. And this is where your experiences come into play. I always say this, right? Just because you are young doesn't mean that you can get through some of the programs I talk about. And just because you are much older or experienced doesn't mean that it's an easy path for you. Because generally speaking, they want to see that it's not just about you having the experience. It's also about how you're able to narrate the old information, come to a conclusion, and maybe state the things that you took away from the experience and how you've been able to use it to improve the culture of the environment, or culture of the airline, or culture of how things are done. Those type of stories are things that you want to be able to use during a situation where you're asked questions like this. Why are they testing for that? They want to see that when you have the ability to, resolve problems, make decisions, and maintain adequate workload levels, then they know that when you get to the job, you're able to use your judgment, your sound judgment, to resolve problems as well. And that's why this is important. Now, last but not least is personality traits. Let's talk about personality traits. It says here, components are professionalism, professional motivation, self-discipline, self-criticism, self-organization, safety motivation, stress coping with social confrontation, information load, time pressure, and application of procedures and compliance with regulations. Now, all of this sounds like a lot, but if you think about this, right, I always say that one of the first things that you want to understand is that the job calls for you to be a professional. What does it mean to be a professional? What are the traits of a professional as it relates to the job? What are the things that you can do to improve yourself as a professional, right? When we talk about discipline or self-criticism or self-organization or self-motivation, right? All of these are aspects that you need to have. The airline can't teach that. And that's why personality traits are so important, because you can't change your personality. If you always are the type that take unnecessary risks, it will translate to the job. If you're the type that is very conservative and very methodical in your approach to making decisions so that you take less risk, it's going to translate to the job. If you're the type that pays attention to detail, it's going to translate to the job. And that's where you need to really assess yourself. What type of person are you? Because if you have a mismatch between your personality and the personalities that are suited for the job, you may struggle, especially during interviews and on the job. I wanted to just highlight some of this information to you. I know that I haven't gone into details exactly on each aspect, but I wanted to see the correlation and how some of this information that is out there, and if you have the right guidance, can help you excel. And my hope is that this information helps you to excel because you're able to use and see the value of this information and how you can apply them to your future endeavors, whether it's a dream job or it's a future job. I hope that you found value in this one. If you have, don't forget to drop a like on the video, and I'd love to see you in the next one.